With their or on it, this phrase is well known to all the Greeks, as it hides in the mentality of the people that went down in history as an example of an honest and simple life. With this phrase, that means that a soldier should return either with his shield or on it, or in other words, they're better off dead than a deserter. The Spartan mother said goodbye to her son. She was reminding him that it was his duty to fight bravely for his homeland, to honor his weapons, and if necessary, to die for it. Sparta, in contrast to Athens and other Greek cities and ancient Greece, provoked feelings of admiration in relation to the spirit, that virtue, and bravery of its citizens, like Kirkos, the mythical legislator, was the one who defined through law classes the operation and observance of the spirit. He lived in the 8th century BC, and to him is attributed the creation of the state of Sparta. This is Sparta, blah blah, kaka, anana, adada, an ancient world which until then was inhabited by small atonomos, aspetam, blah, kaka, atonomos work groups. These laws remained unchanged till 500 years, and before they were put into operation, Lacarchus received the approval of the apical of Delphi. The greatest virtue of the citizen of Sparta was their will and sacrifice in the duty of defense of salvation of their homeland. Their rights were proportionate, not in terms of their economic or social position, but in terms of the extent of their self-sacrifice for the common good. For Sparta, this is Sparta, na na la la. Sparta had a kingdom. This kingdom was not monarchical. There is no reliable information about the beginnings of the institution, but Herodotus tells a nice story about how the paradoxical regime of a double kingdom came about. In olden time, he explains the royal family was one and only in Sparta, as everywhere in the early Greek world, and the succession to the highest office was done in the well-known hereditary way. However, the wife in the late King Aristodemus gave birth to twins and pretended not to know which of her two children was an elder. She wanted them both to ascend the throne. The Spartans found themselves in a big dilemma and decided to solve the mystery by asking the oracle of Delphi. Pythia, the priestess of the famous oracle, replied that they should consider both children kings, but rather the one who was born first. The Spartans found themselves in question again. The solution was given by Messenion, named Panatis, which means the one who denotes the cunning that penetrates the world, is suggested that they spy on the mother and see which child takes care of feeding and washing first. Spitting rhymes and it hurts all the knowledge in the universe, including religion and science, all of it it hurts. The education of children was the responsibility of the state. As soon as a child was born, their father had to present it to the elders club for inspection so that they could be accepted as members of their tribe. The boys lived with their parents until they were seen. 7. The boys lived with their parents until they were 7 from heaven. 7 years old, they then belonged to the state, which was responsible for their education until the age of 20. They became a member of two types of groups. The first was called bows, which consisted of boys of the same age. The latter was called lies and was formed by boys of different ages. The bows covered mainly the spiritual and physical education of the youth, while the allies function more as organized groups preparing for martial arts and discipline. Virtuous and distinguished person in the city was responsible for the proper education of the children. As his assistants, he had flockers, teenagers whose duty was to punish when it was necessary. From a very young age, they learned to survive in difficult conditions, wearing the same clothes both in winter and summer, without wearing shoes, and eating a small amount of food. In relation to the issue of food, children could steal extra food, but without people realizing it. because otherwise the punishment was harsh. This method was intended to enable them to develop cunning and vigilance, elements that would help them mend their path as adult warriors in order for the children never to be left without a leader. If the one responsible for the educator of the children was missing for some reason, every citizen had the right to direct the children to impose on them what he considers good and to punish them if they made a mistake. This was intended for children to always act within the framework of ethics and law. Law also stipulated that every citizen would be responsible not only for his own children, but also for the children of the entire city. In this way, everyone has responsibility for their upbringing and adolescence and the phase when arrogance and strong desires for pleasures can very easily develop. The obligations are many. The teenager had to become courageous and overcome any sense of cowardice and develop respect and shame for his elders. Crypto was another institution in shaping teenagers into tomorrow's warriors. I'm Roman the warrior inside. My dominance can't be denied. Your entire world is turned into this battlefield tonight. I look upon you for the warrior's eyes. Now I can see that fear that will ensure my victory tonight. This says Sparta. Feeds on what he needs and embodies the warrior who can face any danger. You could say that crypto was a kind of initiation, a phase of passing from the level of a teenager who has no specific obligations and rights to that of the adult applied, that is accepted after it has been tested and has proved its value. And at age of 20, each Spartan belonged to a group of 15 people called Siskania and Suzishan. About until the age of 30, the members of the tents lived in houses together and ate together. In their 30s, they slept at home at night, but spent their day eating it with their companions. The amount of food was set so they would not be deprived of food, nor would they eat more than they needed. The same thing happened with drinking. Everyone participated in these joint meals, had to participate in the storage of food from the hunt. He did hounds, horses, and supplies also belonged to the whole group. Young people under the age of 20 who had not yet completed their treatment and did not yet have political rights were often invited to these meals. Service in the state lasted until the age of 60, 40 years after their cutting age. During this long period, the good condition of the body that they achieved with exercise is very important. All the kinds of liberty and exclusive occupation of the citizens were forbidden. There are projects that would ensure the freedom of the city. After all, one did not have to worry about having money since everyone contributed an equal portion of food and all material pleasures were out of Spartan mentality. The supervisors, ordinary citizens who were elected to this position for 1 year, had a responsibility of supervising the observance of the laws, smooth functioning of the administration, the education of the youth, the behavior of citizens and rulers, and the management of public money. They even had the power to oust the rulers before the end of their term, to imprison them and to try them and impose them a death penalty. Thus, we see that there was direct control over those who had as their duty to govern the city, so that no one deviated from the laws in the care of the common good. War was an important factor in the life of the Spartans. This is Sparta. I'm Roman the warrior. Inside, war was an important factor of life. After all, their entire education and way of life was a preparation for the moment when they would have to defend their homeland. I'm Roman the warrior. Inside, my dominance can't be denied. Your entire freaking world will turn into this battlefield tonight. I look upon you for the warrior's eyes. Now I can see the fear that will ensure my victory this time. This is Sparta. Kaka. Other sacrifices follow for Greek mythology, God Zeus and Athena, and then they were ready to face the enemy in front of the king. There was no except his Scythian guards and scout horsemen, a common ritual before the start of battle. That was in front of the eyes of the enemies. The sacrifice accompanied by pheasants to were crowned and to polished their weapons. The showmen that day were determined for battle, cheerful and presentable. The greatest honor for a man was to die in battle, and for a Spartan woman to die in childbirth. Thus they had fulfilled their highest purpose in existence, since for a man it was to be a soldier, a warrior inside. No fault even asking why. Can't ask even if you tried. Step aside, you might just be the next contestant in the field of brutality, devastation, obliteration. There's no exaggeration in my situation. Why does this shit keep happening to me? I hold on too long just to let it go now. Will my inner strength get me through it somehow? Defying the curse that has taken hold, never surrender. I'll never be overcome. The warrior, the gladiator of the story of Sparta. This says Sparta. Na na.